Hey, it is Ryan Levesque here again, and continuing our conversation about how the power of quizzes can help virtually any coaching or consulting business thrive. So the secret to a successful quiz as a way to generate leads and clients in your business is, of course, knowing what questions to ask. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video here. We're going to talk about the different types of questions that you want to be thinking about asking when it comes to creating your own lead generating, client generating quiz. So with that said, let's just dive right in. The first type of question that you want to be thinking about is what we call a grease the wheels question. Now, the grease the wheels question is a question that you ask as the first question in your quiz. It's always the first one. And the goal with this question is to spark a micro commitment that gets people answering your questions. You want to ask a simple, easy to answer, non-threatening question that kind of gets the ball rolling and builds action-taking momentum. You don't want to start with a big, hairy, scary question right out of the gate because it's going to scare people off and they're not going to take the next step in your quiz. So this non-threatening grease the wheels question should be easy to answer and generally will have only two answer options. Yes, two answer options. So you want to make it a binary choice. Are you this or are you that? You want to make it a no-brainer, but you want to avoid yes or no answers. You don't want people saying no to your first quiz question right out of the gate. So let's take a look at an example. I think about one of our clients, Morgan Gist McDonald from Paper Raven Books, which is a small publishing company. She starts her publishing path quiz off with which of the following best describes the book that you're thinking of publishing. Is it a nonfiction book or a fiction book? See how it's a binary choice, easy to answer question that kind of creates some action-taking momentum. Now, the second type of question that you want to think about asking in your quiz is what we call a diagnosis question. Now, this is the question or series of questions that will determine what bucket someone is put into at the end of your quiz. Are they in category A? Are they in category B, category C, category D? And you can have a single diagnosis question that determines a person's bucket, or you can have multiple diagnoses questions. Now, each one of your diagnosis questions is going to kind of point people into one of several possible directions. So for example, a Florida real estate company asks, which statement sounds most like you? And the choices are, I'm excited to use the amenities of my new home community. I have a specific place that I need to live near, or I'm most likely to buy a new home community based on how complete or built out it is. So this is an example of a question, in this case, for a real estate development company to recommend the right community to potentially move to based on your desires, based on what your priorities are as a potential homeowner. Now, in addition to grease the wheels and diagnoses questions, we have what we call non-diagnoses questions. These are the questions that you might want to ask in your quiz for reasons other than putting someone into one of several buckets. In other words, instead of needing to put people into one of our real estate communities or identify perhaps what the publishing path is for an individual, you might want to ask a series of questions just to get to know that prospect a little bit better and really kind of round out who they are. So some of the non-diagnosis questions that you might ask are things like demographic questions, things like age or income, current demand questions to measure the demand of what it is that you might be offering. So a question that you might want to ask around, is this something that people are really interested in right now? Future demand questions. This might help people, might help you understand what the next product or service that you might sell down the road. Like, for example, you might say, if we were to, create some training on any one of the following topics, which of the following are you most interested in? Topic A, topic B, topic C, topic D. So you might not use that information right here, right now to put people into one of several buckets on the back of your quiz, but you might want to ask that question to maybe decide what you're going to sell 3 months from now down the road. And then the last type of question is what we call a story arc question. Now, a story arc question is the question that kind of connects the dots, so to speak, so that way your quiz feels like a conversation. It doesn't feel like you're jumping from random question to random question. It feels like you're having almost like a two-way conversation with your prospect when they land on your website. So let's take a look at a few examples of non-diagnosis questions. A demographic question could be, maybe it's what's the price point of what it is that you're selling right now? Is it less than $100, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, or tens of thousands of dollars? So this is an example of a question that you might not use to put people into one of several buckets, but it's useful to know if you're, for example, helping small business owners, what is the price point of what it is that they are selling? Another example of a non-diagnosis question, a current demand question, could be something like this. In terms of e-commerce, which of the following best describes your focus right now? Are you selling physical books? Are you selling a health and beauty product? Are you selling some other type of health e-commerce product, and so on and so forth? So knowing that information can help you create more demand for your product or service by maybe matching them with a case study that matches up with their business type. So someone who's selling a physical book as their e-commerce product, if you have a client case study that is a physical bookseller, you might be able to connect that physical book a case study with them using the power of segmentation in a tool like bucket.io, for example. Now, the fourth and final type of question is what we call a lead capture question. Lead capture question is where you're asking for the person's contact information. And of course, the reason we want to do that is because the fortune is in the follow-up. Let's say someone takes your quiz right now and you give them the results of their quiz and they're not ready to buy right away. Most people are not ready to buy like this very moment. For many people, most people, it takes some type of future ongoing contact to get them to a purchasing point. You want to stay top of mind. You want to stay in front of them. You want to follow up with them over time. You've probably heard the expression that it takes 7 touch points before someone is ready to say yes. You've got to follow up with someone 7 times on average before they say yes. So we want to ask for their contact information so we can do that. We can follow up with them after the quiz. And what we found is through literally a decade plus of testing, the best place to ask for a person's contact information is at the end of your quiz, always at the end. You also want to have one lead capture question per quiz, and you want to usually have some type of teaser text to get the reader excited about receiving their quiz results. So you might say something like, last step, what's your contact information so we can send you your quiz results and follow up with you on information that we think will be really helpful based on the answers to your quiz. At a minimum, you generally want to ask for a person's email address, but you might also want to consider asking for their name and phone number as well. So that is the fourth and final type of question. Now, I'd like to finish up today's video by sharing just a few best practices and guidelines when it comes to your questions in your quiz. First consideration is how many questions should you be asking in your quiz? Generally speaking, the sweet spot is 5 to 12 questions. Why is that? Well, the reason for that is you want to ask for enough information that people feel seen, they feel heard, they feel understood. You don't want to ask just, one question and say, voila, I know your results. I know exactly what's wrong with you based on your quiz. Just like a doctor, you've got to diagnose and prescribe. And in order to give someone an accurate diagnosis, we need to ask for enough information. At the same time, we have to remember that this is effectively a marketing quiz. It's a lead generating, a customer generating quiz. So we don't want to ask 100 questions. Generally speaking, the device that someone's going to be taking your quiz on is going to be on this right here. It's going to be on their phone. So they're not going to have the time and patience to answer 100 questions. You want to keep it relatively concise. So what we found, analyzing the results of the most successful quiz funnels built on our bucket.io platform, is that the sweet spot is 5 to 12 questions right in there. Another best practice is you want to only ask 1 question per screen. 1 per screen. That's it. You want to think about your questions as having a conversation with your quiz taker. So think about your quiz as a conversation. It's a great helpful tip when it comes to crafting your questions. And you want to be prepared to move things around as you come up with different ideas. You might find, you know what, I want to add a question. I want to remove a question. I want to modify things over time. So those are some tips when it comes to crafting the questions in your quiz. And I will say this, developing the perfect quiz that will move your business forward in a meaningful way is a creative, iterative, ongoing process. So your first quiz is unlikely to be your last quiz. But once you get started down this path, it's completely worth it and can be arguably the most important thing that you do when it comes to generating leads and generating clients in your business. So if you found this video helpful and you'd love to enjoy some more videos on topics like these, I want to encourage you to hit the subscribe button to make sure that you find out anytime that we've got a new video that launches on this channel. And in the meantime, check out some of the other videos that we have in place. There are a number of other videos on this channel when it comes to developing a quiz in your business, getting more clients, generating leads, using the power of AI to do all the above, and much, much more. So go ahead, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.